We have some more significant restricted free agent signings here today. The Carolina Hurricanes have added to their coaching staff, and a controversial pick of the Montreal Canadiens late in the first round of the 21 draft has been suspended by the OHL. We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a variety of news here today, mostly some RFA signings, but we just had a huge announcement from the Ontario Hockey League regarding Logan Mailloux, which we'll get to here in just a moment. Now, first up today, we have some pretty significant signings. First up, we have the Philadelphia Flyers and Joel Farabee. Joel Farabee was entering the final year of his entry-level deal, so this will be the last year at the ELC amount. He's come to terms with the Philadelphia Flyers on a huge extension. He gets a 6-year deal, $30 million for an average annual value of $5 million. So clearly, they really value what this kid brings to the lineup, and he proved last year that he can certainly be a pretty significant goal scorer, which is what he showed prior to being drafted as well from his time at BU, as well as the United States National Team Development Program. In a shortened season last year, he appeared in 55 of 56 games, scoring 20 goals, adding 18 assists for 38 points. In his rookie campaign before that, he put up 21 points in 52 games, so it was a pretty significant rise in points and goals scored for the young forward here, and he's only going to likely continue to get better. So I think you could probably say this could be, and I stress could be, a small overpayment in the short term, but it could be a real bargain down the road. And you know what? I wouldn't be shocked, to be honest, if by the time this contract kicks in, which is another year from now, that it's not even considered an overpayment at all. I mean, obviously a player with 2 years experience getting $30 million is not unheard of. I mean, he's been a fairly proven commodity so far in his brief time in the NHL. But I wouldn't be surprised if he expanded upon that in a full 82-game season this year. I mean, Farabee could possibly be a 30-goal scorer, especially with the team improvements we've seen in the Flyers this year. If he puts up 30 this year and only continues to maintain and get better, this is going to possibly be a real bargain contract, I think, for the Flyers long term. I think he has real potential on a long-term basis for Philly. So that's a great signing in that respect. We have news out of Buffalo as well. Restricted free agent center iceman Casey Mittlestadt has come to terms with the Sabres on a 3-year extension valued at an average annual value here at $2.5 million. Now, I've seen a mixed reaction on social media to this one here so far in the few hours here since it's been announced. But Casey Mittlestadt, to me, I think will earn this contract. I do have a lot of confidence in the young player after how he closed out last season. Obviously, he came into the league a very high expectation after being taken number 8 overall in 2017. He went to the University of Minnesota, played in the NCAA for a year, and in my opinion, he probably should have stayed. I think he was kind of rushed along, convinced to come out of college by Buffalo and sign. I think the Sabres should have let him play at least one more year there and maybe do a little bit more time in the minors before throwing him into the fire. He signed out of college that year, played in 6 games, put up 5 points. He had a wicked World Junior Championship tournament that year, was one of the top players for the U.S. team. It looked to be well on track, so I can understand why many thought he was ready, but of course, the issue, in my opinion, or one of them, I guess, with Mittlestadt, is he just wasn't physically mature enough and ready for that grind. At least that's what it looks like to me. He then followed that up with a 77-game, 25-point season, his first full season. Not too bad. But then the year after, he really took some steps back, spent half the year in the minors, looked just to be out of place, wasn't really grabbing a regular spot. The Sabres appeared to be losing confidence. But then last year, once the coaching change happened and they switched from Ralph Kruger to Don Granato, Casey Mittelstadt's game completely changed and took off. He's got a renewed vote of confidence from Granato. He ended up putting up 17 points in the final 28 games under the new head coach. And obviously, Granato is now the full-time head coach of the Buffalo Sabres. So that's why I do expect Mittelstadt's progress to continue. And if he can become that top 6 center that they thought they were getting when he was drafted, then the future certainly looks to be a lot brighter now. I mean, he's still only 22 years old. He'll be 23 in November. He still has a lot of time to go to really even before he gets to those prime key years. So to me, Mittelstadt can still be a real solid player here for Buffalo. Now, even though it's not official yet, there is also word that they're also closing in on a contract for RFA defenseman Henry Jokiharju. That deal is not official as of the recording of this video, but it's expected to be, and rumored to be, I should say, that the terms will be almost identical to the Mittlestadt contract. It's going to be a 3-year bridge deal is what it looks like, and it's going to be around the same money, around 2.5, but we will discuss that in a future video once that contract is made official, which could possibly come as early as today, if not tomorrow, is what the reports are indicating right now. So we'll have to stay tuned and see what's going on with that. Now, that's all for signings for right now, but we did have a signing in a sense when it comes to the coaching staff. Of course, we know that the Carolina Hurricanes had a vacancy on their bench. They brought back almost everybody. Dean Chenoweth ended up leaving the team, went elsewhere, so there was an opening, and they brought in a former Hurricane player. He's also been working with the team in other aspects lately. That's Tim Gleason. Gleason was a type of player that was extremely hard to play against. Real solid defenseman, kind of a warrior out there, willing to block shots, put his body on the line. Guy that gave you a lot of fanfare, a lot of flash, but he's just somebody who you can respect and obviously play hard every game, every shift, and just give it all he has and be a real team guy. So he's already been working with the Hurricanes the past 3 years on defense development. So he's been in their player development department. So he'll move on to the bench with Roddy Brind'Amour. Of course, Brind'Amour and he were teammates with the Hurricanes way back anyway, so they're obviously very familiar with each other. Both played a really hard style game, tough to play against, laid it all on the line. It's just going to me, be a great addition to that bench and add to the culture that Brind'Amour has really created there since he's taken over as head coach a number of years back now. It's amazing how Rod Brind'Amour stepped into that NHL role as a head coach without really having any head coaching experience elsewhere. He was an assistant coach with them for a while leading into that. And Gleason's the same thing. This is his first role, at least in the coaching aspect, on the bench that we can see since he's ended his playing days. So obviously, Brind'Amour proved that you don't always need to kind of work your way through the ranks. You can get your experience elsewhere. And of course, being a former player certainly also adds to that as well. But I think this is a great addition here to the Canes bench. Now, the other huge news that just broke minutes ago is the Ontario Hockey League has just announced by Commissioner David Branch that they have suspended Logan Mailloux, of course, who was that controversial pick late in the first round by the Montreal Canadiens here just recently in the 2021 NHL draft that took place near the end of July. I'll read you the statement here from the OHL, and I'll give you a snippet here on the screen as well. It says, Ontario Hockey League Commissioner David Branch today announced that London Knights player Logan Mailloux has been suspended indefinitely as a result of an incident that occurred in November 2020 in Sweden while the player was on loan to SK Legion. This violates the league's expectation of the appropriate conduct of an OHL player. The player will have the opportunity to apply for reinstatement to the league on or after January the 1st, 2022. A decision regarding reinstatement will be based in part on his conduct since his return to Canada and the appropriate treatment, counseling, mentoring, and education he receives from the date of this decision. Before this announcement came, it was expected that the first-round pick would be reporting back to the London Knights organization. And obviously, if the team wasn't going to suspend him, and at this point, we don't have indication that they were going to. The OHL, I guess, has kind of taken matters here into their own hands. So he's going to have to sit out, by the looks of it, at least half the season. But they didn't really pinpoint an exact timetable. They called the suspension here indefinitely. So they only are willing to review it when he can apply for reinstatement, which is January, and then I guess they're going to kind of make him prove that he's taken the necessary steps through a variety of ways here to kind of show that he's learned his lessons and learned from his mistakes, whether that be through counseling he's received, treatment, or any education that he can show to what he did was wrong. In case you aren't familiar with the scenario on Logan Mailloux, I'm not going to get into the full details here. We did talk about this on the channel before, but essentially, just to kind of briefly summarize, let's say he had an encounter with a young lady over in Sweden, recorded the situation without her knowledge, and then shared that to teammates and friends, and kind of really ended up becoming a whole big thing, essentially humiliating her and really having a major impact on her life. When his name was announced at the 2021 draft by Marc Bergevin, almost everybody took a collective breath and were shocked. There was reports indicating leading into the draft that Mailloux was not going to be taken early, that he could possibly be taken. A team might take a chance on him in a mid to late round. But even though he is, based on how he's played hockey only, we're not talking personal character here, he is talented enough to be considered for a first-round selection or like an early second-round pick around there. Like he would have been, likely in that range, if not slightly higher, if he would have a clean record and this incident would have never taken place. However, many teams put him on their do not draft board and did not want anything to do with the player because of this situation. And many felt he might have to re-enter the draft next year, show that he's learned from his mistakes, a lot like we've talked about with the Mitchell Miller situation with the Arizona Coyotes pick from the year before. They actually renounced the pick. And I know the Montreal Canadiens, after this, announced that they plan on working with Mailloux to help him get over this situation and all that. And I guess we'll see. But at the end of the day here, it doesn't really matter what my opinion is on if he should be playing hockey or not. The OHL is taking matters into their own hands here and want him to show that he's learned from this before they're willing to let him step on the ice in their league. And that could be some time. Depending on what he can show, obviously January is going to be the earliest. And if things aren't looking good at that point, it could even be later. So we'll have to be seen on how this situation goes. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of talk and discussion around this where this news just broke here. And I'm sure we'll also likely get some kind of comments from the Montreal Canadiens as well, considering he was their draft choice. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about this situation. So let me know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments, and we will discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We will keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.